All right, next week, from July the 13th through the 15th, hundreds of leaders representing civil society and religious groups from all over the world will gather in Washington for the International Religious Freedom Summit 2021. Now, this year's civil society-led summit will build on the momentum started by the government-led ministerials that were organized under the Trump administration to advance religious freedom. Secretary Mike Pompeo, first thing he did, tasked Sam Brownback, former ambassador at large for international religious freedom, to call together leaders from around the world, to Washington, D.C. for the ministerial to advance religious freedom. Well, that's not happening with the government driving it now, so civil society is picking it up. The sold-out event is supported by more than 60 diverse partners, including Family Research Council. So joining me now to talk about the gathering is the co-chair and organizer behind the summit, former ambassador at large for international religious freedom, Sam Brownback. Sam, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Always good to join you. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much. Tell us how this summit came to be.
Well, the Lord leaned on me last fall, and really the idea just hit at that point in time that we needed to continue to do this, that we'd made so much progress on religious freedom on issues around the world, raising the profile, elevating the issue, that we really needed to continue to press it on forward. And we needed to move it to civil society because civil society is constantly concerned about this. Governments have different opinions. They come and go. They have different emphasis, but we've got these civil society groups that this is their passion. And so we put this together and now have nearly 70 groups that are co-sponsoring this from around the world to a sold-out event. And I think you're going to see this be the new model to move forward the grassroots effort to instill religious freedom around the world.
Now, it's being led by civil society, but will government leaders be there speaking?
They will. It's a bipartisan event. Katrina Lantos Sweat and I are the two co-chairs. Her husband and father were both Democrat members of Congress. We've got Democrat and Republican House and Senate co-chairs, and then we'll have 3 administration officials speaking at the event, along with a number of parliamentarians from around the world and civil society groups.
So other than this being led by civil society as juxtaposed to being led by the government, what are some of the other differences between this and the ministerial that you helped lead at the State Department?
You know, our emphasis will be really how do we move the movement forward? Not so much the governments. We want to change governments in most places around the world to have them embrace religious freedom. But the movement itself is about really energizing the civil society and the religious groups around the world to come together and to stand for each other's religious freedom. So we will have groups, there'll be Christian groups, but there will also be Jewish and Muslim and Hindu and Buddhist and Zoroastrian and atheist. We'll have all sorts of groups with one common mantra, and that is religious freedom for everybody, everywhere, all the time. And we want to push the governments to make sure that that takes place. And Tony, if we don't see religious freedom for everybody around the world, we will see the clash of civilizations continue to take place, like we're witnessing even now in Africa and in Asia. And I'm afraid that trend's going to grow if we don't see this fundamental human right protected.
And I agree with you 100%. This is a fundamental human right, and where we've talked about this before, where that right is protected and nurtured, all of society benefits economically, stability in other realms of society. But how central and key of a role does civil society play in this issue?
It's the agitator, it's the promoter, it's the pusher. It's the group that says, look, we're just not going to stop until we realize our mission, which is to get this religious freedom for everybody. And that's why I think is just so central about this moving to the civil society groups, because they're not going to quit. They don't change until this is taking place. And we have such a high level of persecution taking place around the world today. Christians, highest ever. But also, we've had the Human Rights Project around the world be in decline. And I think one of the fundamental reasons is because religious freedom has been in decline. And when that one's in decline, I'm afraid it really provides an easier slope for a lot of other human rights to decline.
Ambassador, very quickly, we're almost out of time, but there has been a charter of religious freedom that's been drafted that will be presented at this summit. Tell our listeners about that.
The charter is an agreement between all the religious groups that are here in an agreement about what this human right is all about. This is not a charter of a common theology, because we don't agree about theology. We don't talk about theology. But it is about what we have in common of this fundamental human right. So it stands up for the dignity of the individual to choose, to change, to pursue God in their own personal but peaceful way. And that charter then spells those issues out. We'll also have issues that we'll pursue, like the end of the death penalty for blasphemy and apostasy laws, breaking down the Chinese internet firewall so the Chinese people can have access to the internet, amongst a number of other issues.
Very quickly, I know it's sold out, but where can people find out more about this movement? Because it's not a one-time event. This is going to be ongoing.
It will. We'll have monthly Zoom meetings of the people that participate afterwards, and they can go online at irfsummit.com, irfsummit.com.
All right, Ambassador Sam Brownback, always great to talk with you.
My pleasure, friend. Look forward to seeing you next week.